Welcome to video 29. You'll notice the next item on our to-do list is to build out the ability to display the number of items and the total cost of all items that are currently in the cart. And I want to display those within the header. So this section right here. And because I know this is going to take a little while to explain, I've split this up into two videos. This video I'm going to be talking about updating the number of items, and the next one I'm going to be talking about updating the total price. So as you've probably noticed, this information appears in all pages within the website. So I'm going to edit our init.php. I'm going to add a new section called global, and I want to set a variable that I'm going to pass off to our view to display within the header. And it looks like this. It's going to be template, set data. I'm going to call it cart total items, and it's going to be whatever value cart get total items, whatever value that method returns. And I've done it within the init because, as I said, this is something that's going to appear on all pages, and I think it's probably makes the most sense to have this line appear in a spot since I know my init.php is included in all the pages in the website. So the next step in this process is to create this getTotalItems method. And that's going to go within our cart object. And up here, right above the create page parts comment, that's where I'm going to add it in. So it's going to be public function getTotalItems. And as usual, I'm going to add in documentation. All it's going to do, it's going to return the total number of all items in cart. It's public, doesn't have any parameters, and it's going to return an int. So I'm going to start this off by creating a temporary variable I'm going to call num, which is going to equal 0. It's going to make sure that there are items in the cart, so if is set, and it's going to check the cart item in the session. And if there are items to return, we're going to do a for each loop. And it's going to loop through each of the items in the cart. And for each one, it's going to add whatever quantity of that particular item is currently in the cart. We're going to do num equals num plus item. Like that. And then finally, at the end, we want to return num. So there we go. So that's been pretty straightforward. This should be working correctly, and cart total items should be set if we test this out. The next step would be to modify our view. So public header, and I'm going to copy this get data line. Rather than using 0, I'm going to replace it and use, it's going to be cart total items, like so. So let's refresh the page here. Looks like I missed something on 134. Oh, right. For each session cart as item. Sorry if that was confusing. There we go. So you'll note that we have one item in the cart, and this one has been updated, so that's awesome. However, you will also note, though, that it says one items, and that, at least according to standard English language, is a little bit bad. I want it to say one item, or 0 or many items with an S. So to change that, I'm going to modify our view. And rather than simply echoing this out, I'm going to say item or items equals. And if you remember from early on, if we passed in false for the second attribute, rather than echoing out this particular value, it would simply return it. And as a quick glance, let me open up the template. Let's take a look at get data. Here we go. And the second input here, the second variable, indicates whether it should be echoed out or simply returned. In this case, we want to return it. And if items equals 1, we know we want to echo out items, item, and then I'm going to copy this section here. Otherwise, else, then I want to echo items dot, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing as we did here, except rather than a singular item, we want items plural. Let me save that. So we have one item. If I change this to 2 and update the cart, well, it's 2, but it still says 1 item, so we have some sort of mistake here, and I'll explain that in a second. But you'll note that if we refresh the page, suddenly we have 2 items, so that's working correctly. And the reasoning why we're getting this issue is because we're setting this particular number in our init, and the init is great because it's included in all of the pages. However, in certain instances, like when we're clicking the update cart button, this update process goes on after the init is included. So we're dealing with old information. So in that case, I'm going to copy this line in our init.php. I'm going to open up cart. I need to make a change. When it updates, at the end here, say just before we add the alert, I'm going to paste that in place to make sure we're dealing with the most recent values for get total items. And I'm going to do a similar thing here within this section, which asks to empty the cart, except that since we know we're going to be dealing with 0 items, I'm just going to pass in 0. So if I save that, so we have 2 items currently. I'll change it to 3 and update the cart, and you'll notice now we have 3 items, and that's working correctly. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. So join me in the next video. I'm going to be talking about updating the price in the header section.